Today we're going to dive into a truly profound shift, how our digital world is fundamentally rewriting the very rules of our legal systems. We're going to explore the key features of what we can call law in the information society.
And just so you know, our entire exploration today is grounded in the foundational research of Professor Vihar Kiskinov.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. We've got it broken down into 4 parts. First, we'll look at the driving factors behind this whole transformation. Then, we'll see how the law is adapting to this new digital environment. After that, we'll pin down the essential qualities of this new law, and finally, we'll pull it all together into one cohesive view.
So let's start at the beginning, the driving factors. What are the fundamental forces that are really compelling this change?
Well, the single most critical driver is a concept called dematerialization. It's a huge shift in what we value as a society. We're moving away from physical things, from material goods, and toward intangible products like software, data, and information. The moment more than half of a society's product becomes intangible, it has officially stepped into the information society. And trust me, this isn't just some small economic shift. It's forcing the law to rethink its very foundations.
Backing this up are 3 other major trends. First, you've got internationalization. Digital actions just leap across borders, right? That challenges the whole idea of national jurisdiction. Second, we're seeing a shift to network structures, moving away from those old top-down hierarchies. And finally, there's this powerful demand for transparency. The thinking goes, because technology allows for easy access to state information, there's now an expectation that it must be accessible.
And what's the end result of all this dematerialization? It's the creation of what we can call a virtual reality. Now, we're not just talking about video games here. This is a new, systematic social environment. It's a manageable digital space where a huge and growing part of our legally important interactions are now happening.
So the big question is, how does the law actually adapt to this brand new environment? In our second section, let's look at how traditional legal ideas are being reshaped for this virtual space. This move into the virtual world wasn't some grand planned migration. It was completely spontaneous. Core legal activities were just pulled online because, well, it was convenient. Think about e-commerce, which is now responsible for billions of online contracts. Or personal data protection, a field that basically had to be invented because all our info moved into digital databases. Even e-government shows this, as state services themselves have moved online. Of course, lawmakers and international bodies had to react, and they started building a new framework piece by piece. It started as early as 1981 with data protection, and from there, a whole series of critical directives and conventions on e-commerce, cybercrime, and electronic communications began to build the legal foundation for this new world. They were establishing the rule of law in virtual space. Let's just look at how different this is in practice. In the material world, law meant paper, handwritten signatures, physical file cabinets. In the virtual world, it's electronic documents, electronic signatures, and databases. But the most radical change is the nature of a legal statement itself. It doesn't have to be a paragraph of text anymore. It can simply be an entry in a database. For instance, a new business registration might not generate a paper certificate. The legal action is simply a new entry in a digital register. This leads us perfectly into our third section, where we're going to get into the core qualities of this new law. You can think of this as identifying the new DNA of our legal norms.
The first and absolutely most essential quality is that this new law has to be systematic. Why? Because the virtual environment is built on logic and code. It's highly organized. An unsystematic, contradictory law literally cannot function there. To be effective, the law has to reflect the same systematic nature of the world it's trying to govern.
Secondly, the law's focus is changing in a big way. Its main job is shifting from regulating physical things, like land or cars, to regulating what we call ideal constructions. These are intangible assets, things like intellectual property, personal data, or even a domain name. It's a fundamental move from the traditional law of things to a much more complex legal theory of ideal constructions. And that leads right to this next quality, constructiveness. Law isn't just a referee blowing a whistle anymore, it's an active builder. When a law establishes an e-government service, it's not just regulating it, it is using legal norms to actually construct the digital organizational structures and processes that make that service a reality.
A few other key qualities pop up as well. There's formal definiteness, which means the law has to be as precise as the computer code it governs. Developed normativeness refers to how we're creating totally new types of rules for automated systems. This allows for automatic action,
where technology itself can carry out legal norms without a person having to do anything. And what's really fascinating is how this pushes us towards a unified law. Because the underlying logic of the digital world is the same everywhere, legal solutions often end up looking very similar no matter which country they come from.
Okay, so for our final section, let's pull all of this together. We're going to take a concentrated view, creating a kind of model of the modern legal system in this new information society.
This table really synthesizes the whole new legal system. The substrate, or foundation, is still human will, just expressed as rules. The source is still mainly the state, but now it includes things like a platform's terms of service. But here's where you see the huge changes. The addressees, who the law speaks to, are now both people and the technologies themselves. And the mechanisms for enforcement, they're no longer just human, they're a joint effort between people and technology. This is the new hybrid reality of law.
As Professor Kiskinov concludes, this new reality means our old, simple definitions of law just aren't good enough anymore. Social development is forcing us to create new, bigger, and more nuanced ways of understanding what law is and what it does.
Which leaves us with a final and pretty crucial question to think about. As all these legal processes become more and more automated, more driven by code, does justice itself risk becoming just another algorithm?